So my passion is to learn about other people's passions, because when someone has a chance to talk about what they're most passionate about, everything about their being becomes brighter, it becomes more real, it becomes more them. And I think that authenticity and that feeling alive and connected and present in the world is a thing I want to surround myself with all of the time. On today's episode, I have the dynamic duo of Carlotta Mast and Mackenzie Sehlke. If you want to learn more about them, please go to janesplace.com, where you'll get more details and learn about their favorite comfort foods. What you are most passionate about, because I love to talk about passion because it just sort of brings this light out in people. You can be passionate about a whole bunch of things, so it doesn't have to be one thing.
Sure.
But let's start with the thing that first comes to mind. And Mackenzie, let's start with you.
Sure. Well, a thing about me that's true is I'm an enthusiast, right? Like I just love hobbies, I love things, I love getting excited about things. But I think my real passion is getting people together. There's something about gathering people in one space. There's something about having a room full of folks. And I think about it a lot because I run a farmer's market. And so I'm always getting a group of small food businesses and farmers. I'm always getting the community together. There's always a busker or a art market component. And just the combination of bringing all those people together, I find it so satisfying and so enjoyable. And that's the same thing I find enjoyable about a dinner party or bringing my running partners together. So I just really love that sense of bringing a lot of folks into the same space and seeing what they can do together. It's that gathering thing.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the farmer's market.
Sure.
And sort of your vision for that, and sort of how you curate who is part of this amazing gathering that you're bringing together.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the coolest things about farmers markets is that they're very specific to the community that they're in, right? I started my farmers market career in Seattle, Washington. So a lot of fishers, a lot of shellfish, a lot of berries, a lot of flowers. Then I went to the East Coast, and it's a lot of mixed vegetable farms, a lot of old school ice cream makers, kind of the Amish cheese culture. And now here in Boulder County, it's very grass-fed beef, it's peaches, it's spirulina farmers, it's kind of that natural food connection. So it's lucky because I sit back and say, who wants to come? And then we get a lot of applications, and we play Tetris in a lot of ways, right? Trying to figure out what's going to make a great grocery basket, who's going to be a good neighbor to each other, what combinations are we trying to tease out? And I sometimes think of it as being a DJ, right? You're adjusting the levels of things. In the spring, you want a different vibe than in the fall. And so that part's really fun. It's kind of a big puzzle that you're putting together. And then you're really trying to layer on top of that, or at least our team is, what will be a great day out with your friends? Where are you going to run into people you don't see? Where can you bring your kids? Where are your old friends from 50 years ago that you haven't seen since that last whitewater trip going to run into you? And that's one of the wonderful things about doing that in a park in the middle of the community. So we really are just trying to sort of find little interesting ways to lure people into this third space that we're building. And then once they're there, we're trying to figure out how to make them comfortable and welcome and linger. So it's fun to think about that lingering element and that place where you're trying to get them to stop and talk to the farmer or sit on the picnic bench or jump in the creek. So it's a really satisfying sort of gathering problem. And it's a really fun thing to watch change over time, change over season, and do with our vendors and with our community members. You know, I took this job. I can't tell you how many people said, I started the farmer's market. I just want you to know. And I loved it because I mean, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 people came up. I just want you to know I started the farmer's market. And they all have a different story about how they started it, and they're right. They did start it, and they started it sort of at different times with different people, and their little piece of it is something that we kind of carry on in a different way. So that's the other interesting thing, is kind of gathering in conjunction with these folks who've been doing this thing for now almost 40 years. It's really fun.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. How do you decide in this sort of Tetris world that you're pulling together, that a company is the right fit.
Sure.
I mean, how do you think about that? And then do companies get to be too big where you're like, oh, you know, you kind of don't fit this anymore, you know, you're national at Whole Foods or something. How do you deal with that, especially if they have a good vibe?
Yeah, it's complicated, that one, right? We're very lucky because we are in the heart of this foodie, organic, natural foods, farming community. So we are embarrassed with our riches, you know. Not every farmer's market has the level of vendors and the level of farmers and just the choice. So we take that very seriously. We're very grateful for it. And we do a lot of thinking about the farm as core. So we have some basic rules. You have to grow it in Colorado. You have to sell what you produce. You can't buy it from someone else and come. And if you're a packaged or prepared food vendor with us, you have to meaningfully transform it. So you're not just repackaging it or dyeing it a different color. You have to be doing something in Colorado. So those weed out some folks who don't do that. And then we spend a lot of time thinking about what do our customers want and how do we balance that tradition with something new and discovery and incubation. You know, about 4,000 people come through a busy Saturday summer market. So you need to be able to make enough food, and we don't want to set people up to fail on that front. But we want to find that nice sort of middle ground with incubating all the way to the long-standing and established businesses. And for us, we think, you know, businesses are very smart. They are made of people who live in our community. They do tend to self-select. Some folks have been with us for 40 years. We have a couple founding farmers who are still on that street, or their kids or grandkids are there.
Oh my gosh.
And we have some businesses that have been at it for 10, 20 years. And for us, that's a commitment to the farmers market, to that way of life, to serving the community. We're not necessarily in the business of saying, this is not for you. But what we do notice is when companies get large and national, they don't have the same attention to the thing. And so we're pretty militant about making sure they have that customer service and relationship. It's not that we will not allow you in, it's just that we want to make sure you're committed to it and can serve the community in that way.
So that brings up a really interesting question, Mackenzie. Do you find that many of the companies that come to the farmers market see this as an entry into the food business and that someday they want to be a big national company? Or do you find that there is this more, we're part of the community and this is kind of our DNA, is serving up the local citizens?
I think it's both. You know, my primary constituents are farmers. And farmers don't necessarily sell to a big national brand and retire to the Cayman Islands, right? It would be nice if they had a better retirement, in my opinion. Many of them are at it because they love growing food. And they're then at the farmers market because they love meeting the people that are going to enjoy it. So that, I think, is very clear in all of our farmers, ranchers, honey producers, our mushroom growers. They're in it to be here and to be part of the community. I think that's true of a lot of our pantry and packaged brands as well. Although I think some of them want to bring their food to more people than they can serve at a farmer's market. So we see that and we hope that they reach the level of business that's sustainable for them. It's really hard to be you both know better than I am, a small local food brand. I mean, it's hard to produce, it's hard to scale.
Yes.
So that middle size, there's a moment where people have to make a choice often. But I don't see them less committed to our community. We have some big brands at our markets who still show up, they still talk to folks. Pretty cool too.
That is great. Well, one more question for you, and it's something you said earlier that really struck me about the vibe of the spring versus like the fall.
Sure.
So how do you and your team think about that, and what is it? Because it's probably the same companies in the spring and the fall, but I'm guessing or
sometimes,
not. Yeah.
Right? Sometimes. I mean, the farmers have a limited growing window, many of them, right? You get a lot of salad greens in April and in November, but not as much fruit, for example. So what we're working with on the shoulder season, as we think about it, is more space. And we're doing things like thinking, okay, you have a great frozen lasagna company. They're fabulous. People love them. Not such a good vendor for us in the summer, typically. Although I've been surprised people want that lasagna all the time. So we're thinking about extending it.
Right.
But another great example is our bone broth and our popsicles. We use one space in the cold, rainy months, we do the bone broth thing. In the hot summer months, we do the popsicles. And, that makes sense because that's what people want. It's also the rhythm of that business. So we're doing that in all of these 10 by 10 spaces. There's a spine, a core of folks who are here all year round, and their product's changing as the season changes. But the guest vendors, the kind of periphery on that shoulder season allows us to really kind of move things around. It's really fun.
I love hearing about the intentionality of that, being a person who goes to the farmer's market throughout all of these different seasons. Like, I experienced that, and I have experienced more of the intentionality of having those spaces to sit down and reflect, and now where the children can play, or anyone can play. And so I'm loving hearing the story behind how that has all come together.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we really think about it as a community, and we really think about it as a hub for local food, right? Where are people going to fall in love with it? Where are people going to be together? How do we make sure that they enjoy that as much as possible? It is like being a curator. It's really satisfying. When you get it right, you can tell, because you see everybody lined up on the bench with their popsicles in a row.
Right.
And it's perfect, right? So.
Oh my gosh. I am going to look at the farmer's market in a whole different way. I'm going to try to get there before this episode airs, so that I can make sure that I've got we recap all of these episodes with a couple of observations. And this whole concept of you being the DJ, of moving this around, is like such a powerful visual. And I love what you were saying, Carlotta, since you've been there many times too, and just sort of the vibe to sort of think about it. Not, I don't know, in just a much more of an orchestrated way. It's just so fascinating.
Well, and if I could say one more thing,
Of
if you all
course.
don't mind, we have a big team. We have a team of 12 people who are with us year round, and then we hire every college student known to man. Doesn't have to be just college students, but we have this incredible young crop of staff always, and they really influence it. That's the fun thing to watch as well, is that the whole staff, and especially our market managers, they are really the ones who think, oh, we've got to find a X, Y, or Z vendor because we're hearing from people they want it, or we think it would be good here. So it really is a team that does this, and it's really fun to watch our young staff tell us what the next food trend is going to be, or what they don't know how to cook and how they want to learn more about it. So that collaboration there is really satisfying as well.
What a great way to have influence on sort of the next generation of leaders too, to have them be a part of what you're curating, and to get that passion for food and of the earth and the farmers. It's like it's kind of an amazing legacy that you're creating, which is super, super exciting. And you said this is your third farmers market kind of gig?
Yeah, I've been in farmers markets for a long time because they're the best place. Making that place, it's just so satisfying, and they're so different depending where you are. I love that.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. And it's such a good segue into Carlotta sort of talking about how we've known each other for a long time, and it's from you being the orchestrator, DJ of this huge expos, and like where you have national brands and regional brands and new brands all coming together. I mean, I just will give the one example because you've done so many of these in your roles, but of Expo West, which is the premier event in the natural products industry, of which I've been involved about 17 years now. And, just trying to think about what you're doing, Mackenzie, what you've done in the past is just so amazing, how you get the vibe of all these brands and the energy and everything. It's just great. So I'm not going to assume that's your passion, but I just want to do that as an introduction since we've known each other for probably about that long now, I would guess.
Exactly. It's been a privilege to do that work, and it is tied to my passion. As I was thinking about this, as someone who's worked in events for natural products for almost 20 years, as well as content and community building, and also as a mom, I don't have a lot of hobbies that I've dedicated a lot of time to, but when I think about really at the core, what do I love to do? What gets me up in the morning? It is bringing people together And I think with the focus of building something for the long term, I think there is so much power in convening people and creating the right container to allow us to really start to listen to one another and not just debate and download the things we know, but to really be open with an open mind, an open heart, an open will, as maybe Otto Scharmer would talk about it, to think about what could we co-create together. And so when I look back on my 17 years at New Hope and running Expo and the different conferences, where I feel the most passion is when we created Climate Day for, getting people together, on the first day of Expo to really focus on how might we use the growing power of the natural products industry to fight climate change and to work together toward climate solutions. And I think about what we created with Escabona, the food conference that we had for several years in Austin. It was not just about bringing people together and showing off products. It was really about how do we convene as a community to create positive change together. And not even just fixing something that's broken, but creating something new. And so that is where I feel the most passion for where I want to take a next phase of my career, is being able to really create those containers to bring people together, whether it's locally. I mean, I think you do that with the farmers market, as well as statewide through all of my work with Naturally Network, and then even globally, because those have been the times in my career when I've been the most energized and when I have felt like the work really could make a difference.
How do you curate the group of people that you want to put into a container? Maybe think about something you've done recently, but as Mackenzie was talking about curating all of the farmers and the different vendors that are at the farmers market to sort of create the right space and get the right outcome. You have to be very thoughtful about who you invite in, and I'm not thinking names as much as characteristics of the kind of people that you look for that are open and trying and want to solve problems.
Exactly. I think, for me, like a first step is to, really articulate the opportunity. I won't even say the problem, but like the opportunity. When we were working on Climate Day, it was this opportunity to finally bring people together who cared about climate action and who were really wanting to be part of building new solutions but just didn't know how. So we brought the right people together who were aligned on that common cause. And so finding that thing that can unite people, I think about also when I helped to co-found the Jedi Collaborative. We started that work actually in 2019, fortunately, and then in 2020 with the murder of George Floyd, and everybody thinking about the work that needed to be done around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We had the start of something in the natural products industry that really gained a lot of steam and was able to have a real impact, I think. And so it was putting out there that we were doing this work, and it was a magnet to people who really cared about it and who really, again, wanted to be part of the solution, but just didn't know how. And we didn't have the answers as the co-founders of this group. It was a small group of us. But by bringing the right people to the table, the answers and the solutions and new opportunities just started to arise. And then it was really cool to see how people then were building other new things, like I think about Project Potluck,
right,
as being born out of that work, and some of the other groups, the Included group, which then really made a huge difference in terms of creating opportunities for entrepreneurs of color throughout the natural products industry. So I think having that common thread of a cause that draws people in, and then from there you can figure out what you can do together. So it's an inclusive approach, but it's just finding people who care about that cause.
I don't know if you knew this or not, but your work at the Jedi Collaborative inspired us at Lily Sweet so greatly. Cynthia Tice was involved. I was involved almost at the beginning under your leadership. but that really helped inform a lot of the work that we did at Lily's in terms of inclusion and how we started to form our own internal approach to how we wanted to make our environment there better and stronger. And it was really important that this was kicked off before COVID, because with the pandemic and everyone being so separate, it became one of our rallying cries whenever we started to do town halls, which is what is the progress that we're making on how we're treating each other and how we're looking specifically at inclusion was kind of probably the biggest one that we focused on.
I love hearing that, because I think there were a number of stories of people, again, who wanted to do this work, and then through community were able to find different pathways to get it done with their company or their part of the community. And that is what I'm passionate about, because I don't think we have to have all the answers. We just we can do so much when we get people together and create a space where, again, we don't have to debate one another, and we don't have to be committed to being right. We can be really focused on being curious and open to what we might create. Because when I think about the future and what is possible, if you can't dream it, you can't build it. And so creating that space where we can dream together, that's how we will get to a place where the ideas will be there that we can build together.
Wow, I think that's going to be another poster that Earl's going to have. If we can't dream it, we can't build it. As part of our animation. Can you share a little bit about what you're passionate about now in terms of getting people together, kind of the container that you might be working on next? So you talked about climate change and Jedi. Is there any little peek under the tent of something that you'd like to start to dig into?
Yes, I mean, the thing I'm really focused on is conscious business and sharing conscious business values and practices and principles. So I'm actually, I'm a writer at heart. When I think about where I'm in the flow, it's when I'm writing. So I'm working on a book about conscious business and really taking a lot of stories from the natural products industry, because I think we are an industry that since the beginning have had a lot of conscious business principles and values that we're articulating, and I'm articulating around the 5 Ps: passion, purpose, people, planet, and prosperity for all. And so I think that is my most passionate focus right now, because I think business is such a powerful force for positive change and force for good, as the B Corps community would talk about. And it's really a pillar in society that can have a lot of impact. And so being able to help entrepreneurs and leaders with the tools that can help them at a personal level, developing that curiosity, developing that awareness, so that then as they're leading their organizations, they can really be building conscious organizations that are driven by purpose, that are focused on more than just shareholder value, that are really looking at how taking care of people and doing right by the environment and the planet can bring a greater prosperity to all. So that's something I'm really passionate about.
It's super exciting, and I think it's really needed today, now more than ever. I don't like to get into politics at all, just because I don't, it's a little awkward, but I think now more than ever, we need leaders who have principles that are greater than just making money, but being able to connect the dots, that if you do the other things, you can make money. And so I think that there really is an important message there, and hopefully in your book you'll be able, with your tools and your tips, to be able to get people to see that, to get from point A to point Z, there's a lot of ways to get there.
Absolutely.
And to figure out where your heart is at, and what you care about will actually get you there faster than just trying to figure out the A to Z on whatever somebody else's path is.
Absolutely. That's the passion piece, and that's why that's the first P, is understanding what you're passionate about, because that's what creates the fuel that allows you to do the hard work that is required to do business in a different way, to be thinking about these different stakeholders and how you can create prosperity across your your value chain, and as part of that, creating a prosperous business that can continue to do that good work. And I'm really excited about my many years of work with Naturally Network, starting with Naturally Boulder, now at the network, because the network is really focusing on conscious business as a unifying reason for being, and really wanting to create programming and communities of practice and tools that can help, again, entrepreneurs and business leaders and anyone who is really wanting to do business in a different way, and they'd have then a community that they can work with to be able to do that.
That's incredible. When is your book coming out? What's your timing?
Well, the goal is to have it finished by the end of the year, and it's now that I have more time to really be focused on that, I feel pretty confident that I can have a draft done by the end of the year.
So, Mackenzie, I think that the two of us should sign up for hosting a party for Carlotta's book.
Let's do it.
I'll create the venue, and you create the food, and you bring the book, and we'll curate an amazing group of people to be able to celebrate that.
Fun.
You've just energized me to make sure I get it done.
That's great. Well, thank you both for sharing your passion with me today. It's so exciting, and these conversations to me get me so excited about just wanting to go back in the world and do great stuff, and just to not get bogged down by the stuff that kind of bogs us down, which sometimes it's easy to get into that. So thank you both for being so candid and sharing your thoughts with me today.
Thank you for inviting us, and you are doing great stuff by convening these conversations. I think it's really important, so thank you.
This episode was special to me, as I've known Carlotta for a long time through our work in the natural products industry, but Mackenzie was totally new to my world. There is so much joy for me in meeting new people and seeing how our lives are connected. And connection was the common thread for both of their passions, as they both want to curate environments where people thrive. I love this idea of each of us being the DJ in our lives and creating forums, whether it is the Boulder Farmers Market or Expo West, to bring people together and celebrate our shared visions. When Carlotta said, "If you can't dream it, you can't build it," I knew immediately that this would be an insight we would need to capture from this podcast. So my questions for us coming out of this discussion: where do the 5 Ps fit into our lives? Passion, purpose, people, planet, and prosperity. And do we believe that our dreams can become real? Special thanks to Jane's Place fabulous producer, Aditi Joshi, who made my passion a reality. I am also so appreciative that the amazing musician, Tim Cook, provided the lively music from the Subdudes called Them Figs. This podcast was brought to you by Rudy's Bakery new gluten-free Sandos with Justin's Nut Butter, and from our friends at Naturally Colorado. I want to keep asking questions that matter, and I want this to feel like a space where your story belongs too. If there's something you want to talk about, a moment, a memory, a shift you're going through, Jane's Place door is always open. Truly. You can drop me a note on the website, join a future episode, or simply listen in when you're ready. Because Jane's Place isn't just a podcast, it's a gathering, and I'm so grateful that you're here.